The 4-day work week promises we can get 100% of our current work done in only 4 days instead of 5. And it almost sounds too good to be true. In today's video, I want to break down some of the darker sides of the 4-day work week, some considerations that we have to make, and honestly, whether or not this is the future or whether it's just a trend. Hello, my name is Kevin. Welcome back to the channel. The 4-day work week is pretty self-explanatory. You take a 5-day work week and you squish it down into 4. And in most cases, companies are working the same amount of hours total, which makes an 8-hour day turn into a 10-hour day, and everyone's receiving, for the most part, the same pay. The early results are pretty promising. Small companies, mid-sized companies all around are trying out a 4-day work week trial, and those make the news every once in a while. Most of the results are pretty promising. Probably the biggest study that's been done recently was by 4-day Week Global in the UK for 6 months in 2022, also pretty positive results. And probably one of the most cited case studies of the 4-day week was done by Microsoft Japan in 2019 for the month of August. And they said their productivity was up by 40%. Well, if the 4-day week is clearly awesome, then why isn't everybody shifting to this? Well, maybe everything isn't quite as utopic as it seems. You see, we haven't done a lot of long-term scientific studies on the impacts of a 4-day work week, especially in specific cultures or industries. So we have limited data. And a lot of the big studies that have been done for 12 months or less in a lot of cases. And honestly, what can't somebody do for a year before they give up or try something different? So we need to learn more about the actual impacts of this before it gets the widespread mainstream adoption. Interestingly enough, in a lot of the studies, companies report not just reducing the work week, they're also talking about reducing meetings, moving to more asynchronous communication with each other, chat versus email. Let's get rid of the fluff. Well, of course, productivity increased. You're not wasting time in meetings and you're working more asynchronously, which means that you can align yourself with the working hours and the working habits that make you as productive as possible. So that's a very positive shift, but is that really due to the work week, or is that just part of the trial of reducing the hours? Also, not everybody who's done the 4-day work week has reported positive results. It's not 100% across the board a good thing. It's a very cultural adaptation, because some people say, okay, now I've got 5 days worth of work to do in 4 days, and that is stressful. I'm not going to get that done. And that has kind of caused pressure and chasm and rifts in some of these companies. You have to really search for the headlines that say the 4-day work week experiment was a failure. Some experts even say that your results might be so disastrous that it's better to not even try changing to a 4-day work week if you're going to fail. I think a shift to a 4-day work week does have some important considerations. First, happiness and satisfaction may be more tied to the flexibility that people are giving their employees rather than the fact that it's just 4 days a week. It might not matter how many hours a week you work if you're given the flexibility to determine your own schedule and you're told you don't have to attend meetings anymore. Second, because we don't have much data on the 4-day work week, it's interesting to watch how this shifts if it becomes the norm and everybody's working 4 days a week normally. Does that become the new 5-day work week and everybody starts talking about having a 3-day work week? As we get comfortable with this, do we start to change the amount of work we're going to take on to actually just fit the 4-day week bucket rather than looking at a 5-day week as our baseline? I don't know if you're supposed to base your productivity on a 5-day standard if 4-day work weeks become the new standard. Nothing's been run long enough for us to really understand how that impacts productivity long term. Third, I think a 4-day work week as well as a 5-day work week benefits most when it's more results driven rather than input driven. What I mean is this: inputs is hours worked. If you're expecting 10-hour days, 4 days a week, that's a lot of input. And if you think that that's really the metric of productivity, how much you get done in that time, maybe you're missing the point. Rather than saying, hey, team, here's what we expect to get done this week or this quarter, and thinking about those results. Having a results-driven culture not only leads to that level of accountability that it doesn't matter how long it takes you to work, 30 hours, 40 hours, 50 hours, but it also helps eliminate those BS jobs, the things that aren't contributing to the bottom line, that aren't actually helping drive the results and the outcomes that the team is expecting. Fourth, a 4-day work week isn't necessarily inclusive for the population that enjoys work. Some people really get purpose out of what they do. They're very satisfied with what they're doing. And if they want to work Fridays or they want to work Mondays and they want to work Saturdays and Sundays, a 4-day work week starts to cramp their style, starts to cramp their preferences. The people they want to be around that they normally would have available to them on Fridays to get things done, the running mates are gone because, you know, the workplace has shifted to a 4-day work week. So it kind of pushes those people out. It could, you know, disincentivize people from working more when they're the type of person that wants to do it. Now, this isn't everybody, but like, I kind of like this. I enjoy working. Like, I look forward to it. And if my company said that now you're forced to only work Monday through Thursday, well, do I look bad or what if I'm the guy coming in on Friday when nobody else is working? So like, there's a big consideration that needs to be made for the people who want to go above and beyond that doesn't preclude them from taking part in the benefits of a results-driven 4-day workweek culture. I think the jury is still out on the 4-day workweek. It obviously is proven to have some benefits, but a lot of those benefits may be driven to a cultural shift and a mindset shift that, hey, we can get a lot done in 4 days because we're driven to do that, but we haven't done that long term. When Henry Ford started to bring in the 5-day work week, because we used to be at a 6-day work week in America, that was largely driven by a concern that when people are working 10 to 12 to 16-hour days frequently over the long haul, they burn out from that. And if we're now asking the workforce to work 10-hour days, 4 days a week, even with a 3-day weekend, you know, there's potentially room to burn out on that because how many people are used to that level of workload over time? I think the most successful 4-day work weeks are going to be the cultures that adopt a mindset of it doesn't matter as much how much you work, but rather what you do with that work. Are we results driven? Do we trust our workforce? People are a lot more satisfied. Turnover is way less when people are happy at work, and happiness is driven a lot by having trust, having control over your time, not having to be micromanaged, not being told when to work or how to work or where to work or what to work, but rather being given that space to just be their best self. And that's going to be up to the team. So maybe it doesn't make sense for the company to mandate and force a specific schedule, but rather to create flexibility and freedom for the workforce to work in ways that they want to work. That way, you make space for your ambitious people, and you also accommodate the people who kind of want to be productive and efficient with their time and like get in, get paid, and get out in 4 days a week. Either way, I think that there's a lot of promise here. I think that this is a good disruption to the 5-day mindset, to the input mindset. I think that a 4-day work week, and the more we talk about it, the more we're going to learn about worker psychology. And I think as we can reap the benefits and kind of recognize what's important and what's going to bottom line truly being driven by, I think it's going to be good for not only the economy, but for work-life balance in general. Anyways, that's all I have. I hope some of that was helpful, useful, insightful. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.